Throughout the entire second year of high school, he was in love, and it was with a very cute girl. Unexpectedly, she started acting strange around him. It was as if she was also in love with our big guy. Thus, in the second year, they spent the beginning of the school term very close. She even invited him to go out on dates, and when they were about to start dating, she ended up having an accident and lost the memory of the last year. Because of that, she became a completely different girl who barely knew him, and instead of telling her everything they had gone through, our big guy just watched someone steal his identity. A jerk is going to pretend to be our hero to try to win the heart of the cutie. The story already begins with the phone ringing at 7:10 in the morning. Comment here what time you wake up. I at least wake up around that time myself. But our big guy didn't really want to go to school, especially because it was raining and that was the perfect excuse to stay home. However, the final exam of the second year was almost over, but a little girl goes there and pulls Kang's hair. Our guy gets mad and tells the girl to stop. All cheerful, his little sister keeps saying that he should go to school. After putting on his glasses, he remembers what always motivated him, and it was precisely that girl who motivated our hero. She was there putting on makeup. She was the typical kind of girl who arrives at school all made up at 7 and she was putting in extra effort because she wanted to impress a certain someone. And as always, our dear Kang arrives late. He even makes an embarrassed face, apologizing to the teacher. But it's no use, both he and Chanbi were always late. And the teacher even says that the two of them will stay outside and won't be able to take the test. The guy gives an excuse saying his umbrella didn't work. That's why he was late. But it's no use, guys. Both he and Chanbi were punished. And so the teacher slams the door, leaving the two of them outside in the hallway. The girl, she was all shy, fidgeting with her umbrella, and she also seemed to have been late because she was all wet. He comments that this always happened. The guy always got late along with Chanbi, and they ended up stuck outside. The girl, she was stuttering, calling Kang's name, and when he turns to her, the girl drops her umbrella. They both crouch down to pick it up, and when he looks at the girl's face, he notices she was hiding behind her hair. Then he picks up the umbrella all gentlemanly, and after handing it to Chanbi, he ends up revealing her face, which was covered with heavy makeup. In the past few days, our hero had been getting closer and closer to this girl, and she acted strangely when she was near him. A girl ends up calling for Chanbi, and she turns all serious. And while talking with their friends, our hero comments that she's very different when she talks to him. He even wondered if perhaps this girl was falling in love, since she always had blushing cheeks and stuttered a lot. That was the perfect sign that the girl was in love. But our hero was still unsure. A mysterious hand appears behind Chanbi and starts wiping off her makeup. The one doing that was the teacher, leaving the girl startled. She even tries to dodge it but can't, and the teacher said it wasn't allowed to wear makeup at school. Seeing that wet wipe, Chanbi starts to panic, saying that the teacher shouldn't do that. However, the teacher kept saying that a 16-year-old girl shouldn't wear that kind of makeup. And poor Chanbi looks at our hero to see if he was watching that embarrassing scene. And indeed, our hero was there watching everything. The guy even wonders why she was staring at him. It must be because she's in love with you, right? You dummy. All embarrassed, she gets her cheeks red. Finally, she screams and covers her face so he wouldn't see her without makeup, then runs to the bathroom telling the teacher she'll take it off herself. Our clueless hero keeps wondering why she kept staring at him all this time, but deep down he knew she was probably in love with him. And the guy turned all red. Next we see Chanbi in the bathroom washing her face. She was worried, thinking that our hero saw that whole embarrassing scene. And the only thing Kang could think about was how such a pretty girl could like him, a simple shy nerd. If you're a shy nerd too and think no one would like you, don't worry. Surely you'll find a cutie who will be your perfect match. But at night, Kang still hadn't gone home. He was there in the classroom studying the lessons he had missed since he lost the first class. However, he couldn't memorize those English words and started cursing. The hardest part of all was concentrating, and he kept saying that it was really boring. However, Chanbi ended up appearing outside in the hallway, and when the big guy looked at her, she got super embarrassed and tried to hide. All shy, she opened the door slowly, and after peeking her face inside, she asked what he was doing at school at that hour. He said he had an English presentation and was trying to practice, and she asked if she could come in to stay with him. A very awkward atmosphere began to form in that room, and she asked again if she could stay with him and if he didn't mind. Of course I don't mind. You can come in, stay here. Of course he didn't say that, he just said she could come in, and she immediately walked into the room. The guy asks if she didn't bring her study material, but the girl says nothing. She simply sits at the first desk next to him, and trying very hard to say every word, she says she's going to help him memorize the English presentation. The guy freezes, wondering if she's really offering to help him. After he accepts, she asks him to open to the last page. Making a little joke, she says he can't peek at what's written in the book, and with Chanbi's help, he finally manages to memorize all the sentences. That was the motivation he needed, guys. As unbelievable as it may seem, it's really nice to be alone with her. At that exact moment, she looks up, and their eyes meet. The guy gets all embarrassed and starts repeating the sentences he had memorized in English. In the last few weeks, they had spent a lot of time alone, and every time he looked into Chanbi's eyes, his heart beat faster. At that very moment, they both got embarrassed because they were staring at each other and started to look away. And redder than a pepper, she said he would need to name 3 literary works in English, or if he preferred, they could go to a convenience store together. Of course, after you finish memorizing all these sentences, she was basically inviting him on a date after school. A few days passed and they were taking a test. He was very anxious while marking some questions. After the tests, everyone was eager to know what grades they had gotten. And since it was raining that week, it was nice to stay home watching Rico Maha and telling myself that I would catch up on all my schoolwork, and telling himself he'd catch up on all the schoolwork. At that moment, Chanbi appears beside him, asking how he did on the tests. The guy gets a huge scare. For God's sake, girl, don't sneak up like that. She always appeared out of nowhere and asked random questions, and he always answered all of them. He asked if she also did well. She said yes. Since she couldn't wear makeup, she put on a mask because she felt very shy around him. And the guy even wondered if maybe she had a cold, since she was wearing that mask. But he decided not to ask anything because he was embarrassed. Fidgeting with her fingers, she said she wanted to ask something, and asked if by any chance he would study tomorrow. If he were free, she would like to go out with him, since she had something very important to tell him. The guy already imagined that she was going to confess her feelings. And as he closed his locker door, he asked if tomorrow wasn't her work day, but the girl said no, that she was already going to work today, so she could take the next day off. She had talked to her boss to work that afternoon exactly because tomorrow she wanted to go out with him. That was the perfect moment for the two of them to start going out and dating. But the big guy was very insecure and didn't believe that a perfect girl like her could like a stinky nerd like him. But that was really awkward since they had already been close for quite some time. So that shameless stinky guy gives an excuse, saying he had a family dinner in the morning so he wouldn't be able to go out with her. My God, it makes me want to punch this guy. If you feel like punching that Kang too, don't worry, I do as well. And while the rain fell, she apologized. After saying goodbye, the guy felt regret, asking himself why he had been such an idiot. His red-haired friend asked what he had been talking about with Chanbi and why they had been so close lately. Then he remembers the poor girl apologizing and says he'll find another day that works for both of them. With his head down, he keeps saying he's a complete idiot, and his friend just laughs. But the redhead thought the big guy was saying he was an idiot because he did badly on the tests. If only that were the case. From afar, the girl watches him leave, and when she realizes it's raining, she says she forgot her umbrella at home. Yurin says her friend always forgets her umbrella, but it's fine, she could give her a ride. And poor Chanbi, she had that blank expression because she'd been rejected by Kang, and the two of them end up saying at the same time that they're idiots. At that moment, Kang's sister ends up calling him. His family had gone on a trip and he was home alone, and of course parents are always worried. They were calling to check if everything was okay, and they even told him not to keep eating only instant noodles. He should eat real food. That story about a family dinner was a lie, guys. His family wasn't even in town, and when he remembers her face from when he said that, he feels completely regretful, wanting to cry. Because of that, he would need to act differently and return everything she had done for him. He decided that he himself would invite Chanbi to go out, but he didn't have a plan. The only thing he did was arrive very early at school. He planned to take her to dinner, just the two of them. However, the girl didn't show up and he spent the whole day feeling extremely anxious. So he went to Yurin to ask why Chanbi hadn't shown up. And the girl screamed really loud. She was asking for his help with math since he was very good at it. And he still asks why Yurin always copies his work. She says it's because if she copies the answers on the back of the book, it would be too obvious. He asks again why Chanbi didn't come to school since Yurin was her best friend. Then Yurin says that actually Chanbi ended up having an accident at the convenience store where she works, and Kang gets terribly worried since Chanbi lives alone because her parents are abroad. But Yurin didn't care at all, guys. It seemed like she wasn't very worried about her friend, and was more focused on her homework. Yurin says she's not that worried because she called Chanbi and talked to her and she said the girl was fine. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still cloudy. 2 weeks passed and Chanbi didn't go to school even once. All worried, he kept calling Chanbi's friends asking what had happened to the girl, why she hadn't shown up at school anymore. Then they said she hit her head in the accident and lost the entire last school year. She had lost her memories from 1 year ago. That's exactly what happened, guys. When he met Chanbi, she said she didn't know him. That was because they had met about a few months ago. The girl asks if there was something important between them since she forgot everything that happened in the last 12 months. That was no longer the same Chanbi he liked. The guy opens his umbrella and his friends ask what he's doing. The guy had gone a little crazy trying to remember what it felt like to be with her on those rainy days. The last few months had been wonderful being by Chanbi's side, and when he finally had the chance to go out with her, he ended up ruining everything. If he had gone on that date with her, she wouldn't have had to work again and wouldn't have had that accident. Now that Chanbi, who liked him so much and whom he also liked so much, wasn't anywhere to be found. All of that because he was a coward and didn't accept to go on the date with her. He keeps remembering the girl all the time and even the feeling he had when she looked at him. Chanbi liked Kang a lot, but he didn't believe it. My God, man. Just by looking at that girl, you can tell she's totally into you. But he didn't know what he had done for her to like him. The only thing that mattered was that their love was mutual. However, all of that was shattered into pieces. And back in the present, she asks if they had any kind of relationship she should know about since she forgot everything. At that moment, Yurin appears and says they had nothing between them and that they weren't even close. And the guy gets all frustrated and keeps saying they didn't hang out together because there were no pictures of them on Chanbi's Instagram. My god, girl, shut up, you're ruining everything. He even starts sweating nervously, wondering if he should interrupt and tell the whole truth. In the past few months, our hero had started hanging out with a group of Chanbi's friends, which was why they were close. However, Yurin keeps saying they weren't that close. The redhead asks if by any chance the girl doesn't remember anything since last May. She says that's exactly it. The last thing she remembers was an interview she did to work at the convenience store. In other words, everything that happened from May last year to May this year had been erased. The girls from our hero's group say they're going to introduce Chanbi to the other friends. Dong asks why Yurin brought the girl there and didn't properly introduce them. And she keeps saying there are many people to introduce to Chanbi since she forgot everyone. The redhead keeps shouting, asking if she really doesn't remember anything from the past year, but she remembered some people because she had known them for more than a year and even mentioned their names. That one she didn't remember well because he moved away at the end of last year, but after forcing her memory a little she remembered his name reasonably well. Meanwhile, Kang was in love with Chanbi, but it was sad and very depressing because she didn't remember anything they went through together. And that one there, do you happen to remember him? The redhead keeps asking that while pointing at our hero, and everyone starts looking at the Four Eyes, and the only thing she remembers is a guy saying he'd only join the club if Chanbi joined too, and because of that she got mad, asking if Kang was that shameless guy. All angry, she starts shaking Yurin, asking why she's making her go through all this embarrassment. But it wasn't our hero, guys. It was another guy she was confusing him with. Then someone asks Chanbi if by any chance there was someone she liked and even felt embarrassed when she was near. Upon hearing those words, Kang feels terribly embarrassed, but in a confident way she laughs and says that someone like her would never feel shy in front of a boy, because she's full of attitude and would declare her love. Poor Kang knew that wasn't exactly true, and in front of everyone she thanks God for not having fallen in love during the past year. Yeah girl, I think you're very mistaken. During PE class, our protagonist keeps thinking about the mess he got himself into and watches the other students playing volleyball. Kang's biggest worry is whether Chanbi might like someone else, and in the end what he went through was nothing more than an illusion. His classmate was there playing volleyball and ended up hitting the ball really hard. That volleyball goes straight toward him. And since he was distracted thinking about Chanbi, he ended up getting hit in the face. His glasses even fell to the ground, and when he crouched to pick them up, a drop of blood fell on the lenses. His classmate apologizes and even asks if he was thinking about Chanbi. Trying to play it off, he crouches down and starts wiping his face since it was all dirty. And surprisingly, the same thing happened to Chanbi. She also got hit in the face. Dong even makes a joke saying the little couple had a matching nosebleed, and when the girl looked to the side she saw that her friend was also hurt. Someone in the back comments that the two should go to the infirmary together, and so they climb up the school building and go straight to the infirmary. After getting treated, the nurse says they're both fine. Some time passes and the two sit down on the chairs inside the infirmary, and as always, there's that awkward silence where no one says anything. Our boy looks to the side and becomes hopelessly in love with Chanbi. He even remembers her a few weeks ago when she was completely in love with him. He even suspected that those masks she wore were just to cover her face out of embarrassment. And now that she's no longer in love with him, it's obvious how differently she treats other people. All sad, he keeps saying that he's back to square one. Our hero's negative energy was contagious, and Chanbi even glances to the side. A little curious, she asks if they had fought. It might be strange for her to ask that kind of thing, but it seemed like there was some heavy atmosphere between them. It was as if they had fought or something had happened that no one else knew about. And if that really was the case, she would like to apologize. Maybe it's because of the strange feeling that she's trying to get closer to him. And our boy doesn't say anything, he just sits there watching the girl. And for the second time, she asks if they had something in the past. The guy freezes, in shock. Well, no, we didn't have anything. We didn't have any fight, no discussion. The nurse who is in the corner of the room says they can leave. Then she gets up, calling him to go, and everything was fine since they hadn't fought in the past. Inside the bathroom, he was washing his glasses. The guy didn't mind falling for her again. He just wished they could be friends. That was already good enough. But right after that, he changes his mind and thinks that he does want to become her boyfriend, so he'll need to win her over again. Before he was all downhearted, and now he was in love again. But at that moment, someone shows up, making him jump in fright. That jerk's name is Sangwoo, and he asks what our hero was doing with Chanbi in the infirmary. And he even mentions that he was also in the infirmary on another bed. The jerk keeps asking if Chanbi had come back to school since it had been a long time since she attended. He had called Chanbi several times to ask how she was, and our hero said that her phone had broken and now she had a new one because of the accident. Now that the girl had a new phone, everyone started asking for her number, and he even reveals to that creep that she had lost her memory of everything that happened in the past year. Then the guy simply touches our hero's shoulder and asks if that's true. She really can't remember anything that happened in the last 12 months. Wait a second, is this guy really that close to Chanbi? Yeah man, she lost her memory of the last year because of that accident. Sang puts his hand on his head and ends up pulling down his hood, and it seems he was feeling relieved because her phone was gone and she had lost her memory of everything that happened in the past year. That was very suspicious, and our hero stands there finding it strange. Then the guy starts pretending, saying that something like that happening is terrible, but our hero found it really strange that he acted as if he liked it. And the guy keeps saying that Chanbi would give him an answer after the exams about whether they would date or not. That ends up catching our hero by surprise, and he even wonders if this guy had feelings for Chanbi. And since our boy was insecure, he kept thinking that Chanbi had been misleading him all this time, because in the end she truly liked Sangwoo. The guy says that all this time he had feelings for the girl, and since she lost her memory, he will have to win her heart all over again. And he ended up telling our hero that Chanbi had said she liked him, and that they were close to starting a relationship. Upon hearing those words, our hero's heart starts beating faster and the atmosphere between the two becomes tense. Sangwoo even says that they had already been going out together, and all that leaves our protagonist devastated. Wait a minute, you two had feelings for each other, the boy said yes. Basically we were almost dating, but it just wasn't public yet. Upon hearing those words, our protagonist is stunned. Kang even asks himself why Chanbi would do that to him. Wait, didn't Chanbi like me? Don't tell me that in the end I was just a tiny piece in the puzzle. But he shouldn't trust that guy. Besides, he knew Chanbi much better than Sangwoo did. After all, the girl he knew wouldn't do that kind of thing. Our hero asks what Sangwoo is going to do. Well, since Chanbi lost her memory, I'll have to win her over again. But since it had been a while since he talked to her, it would be weird. Him showing up out of nowhere, so he would wait a bit longer. Everything our protagonist tried to do, that jerk said he would do instead. He had never felt so powerless as he did now. Classes had ended and some students were going home. From a distance, our protagonist sees Sangwoo talking to Chanbi's friend, and that jerk was there asking about the girl. Our hero's friends say that guy looks really suspicious, and right at that moment our lovely second protagonist shows up eating some sweets, and she even wonders how the boys have so much time to stand around talking. The redhead makes a joke saying that both she and our hero had a nosebleed. She gives an awkward laugh and says she doesn't remember the boys' names very well, and she feels anxious when her friend isn't around. Dong asks what kind of candy she's eating, and she says it's gummies, and even offers them some. The redhead runs to grab a candy, and the only thing he can think about is how Chanbi had the nerve to mislead him. At that moment, in a very sweet way, she offers him the little bag of jelly beans. The girl comments that orange is his favorite color, so he could take one. The guy wonders how she remembered that, but he doesn't mind and grabs a candy right away. At that moment, Yurin calls everyone over and ends up pointing her finger at Sangwoo, asking if by any chance the cutie remembers him. She looks a little confused and even more embarrassed, and he says maybe she doesn't remember since they met recently. As he approaches, he says he was really worried about her memory loss and asks if she remembers him. She says yes because they studied together in middle school, but she doesn't remember ever interacting with him. The guy says he tried calling her, but she didn't answer. That's because she had changed her number, and she quickly grabs her phone to add each other's contact. Sweating cold, he says the two used to be close, but she probably doesn't remember anymore. Yeah, I don't remember. I lost all my memories since May of last year, but that wasn't a problem because they could rebuild that friendship all over again, he keeps saying. I don't know about you, but I really didn't like that jerk. Even Chanbi's friends start teasing her and she gets mad. She even says that there's nothing between her and that guy, they're just friends. And the redhead keeps saying that guy seems very persistent, and besides, it looked like he was lying. Then Chanbi turns to her friend and asks if there really was something between her and Sangwoo. The girl says she saw her with him at a restaurant once, but that was sometime last year. And the redhead keeps saying he didn't know the two were that close. And Kang didn't need to hear that kind of thing. And the group keeps teasing Chanbi, saying she had a boyfriend. But the poor girl didn't even remember that. Several girls go to her in the classroom asking if by any chance Chanbi remembers, and the poor girl even gets a headache. One of them ends up showing her phone asking if she remembers that day in the picture. The only person Chanbi knew was Yurin, her friend, and the other girls keep wondering if maybe Chanbi really doesn't remember them. The girl was there trying hard to remember. That guy ends up showing up asking if he could talk to her later. He's there too with flushed cheeks, saying he wrote down everything he wanted to tell her, and in a rather cold way she ends up saying she was talking with her friends and didn't have time to talk to him now. The girls notice that Chanbi was very rude, and since they were curious to see her interact with that boy, they say they had already finished talking to her and end up running away, leaving Chanbi alone with that guy. One of them even comments that Sangwoo used to hang out with Chanbi from time to time, and our hero, who was hiding there with his head under the desk, keeps listening to the whole story. It seems that Chanbi was very popular because everyone went there to see if by any chance she remembered them. And during the class break, she walks down the hallway together with that shameless guy, the poor fellow of our young man. He kept watching all that and couldn't do anything about it because he didn't have the courage. The girl he liked and who seemed to like him was actually making a fool out of him all this time. The guy thought she had played a prank on him, making him fall in love with her. The light turns green at the traffic signal, and he wonders if things would have been different if he were a guy with a little more attitude. Yeah, my boy, if you keep being this scared, you won't end up with anyone. Early in the morning, Chanbi was running to cross the street, and the boy was trying to control himself so he wouldn't keep staring at her during today's class. At that moment, she comes running after him and calls out Kang's name. She was exhausted from running and starts sweating cold. It was the first time they were alone in a long while, but she didn't seem well at all, guys. Her skin was pale, and at that moment she gets ready to vomit, and does it right in front of our hero. The boy ends up taking her to an alley so she can vomit in peace. My god, it's early in the morning and she's already sick. Please, Chanbi, don't die right in front of me. The poor girl was in bad shape, and he grabs his phone saying he'll call the hospital. Offering her a small bottle of water, he tells her to rinse her mouth. And meanwhile, she keeps telling him to call her brother to come pick her up. And that's exactly what he does, telling the girl's brother that she was in front of her house. Chanba's older brother would arrive in about 10 minutes, and meanwhile he was going to try to take the girl to the front of her house. However, she wasn't moving. The pretty girl was really sick, guys, and even fainted. He had heard that she was living alone, and that must have been something very lonely. He reaches out his hand to see if she's breathing, but the cowardly guy is too scared and ends up pulling back. He couldn't even touch her to help her stand up. I know, you also feel like punching this guy. At that moment, he ends up receiving a call. Sang-woo was calling the girl's phone. Why is that guy calling her this early? At that moment, he hears someone asking what was going on, and it was none other than Sang-woo who shows up there in that alley. And when he looks at the ground, he sees that Chanba had fainted. The guy goes there and keeps asking if she's okay, but the girl couldn't answer. And he even holds her hands while our hero watches that painful scene. At that moment, he turns to Kang and asks, "What did you do?" "Hey, calm down, I didn't do anything. She was just going to school and she showed up near me and started feeling sick." "Ah, what a relief. So you met her by coincidence, right?" Yes. Yeah, it was a coincidence. Come on, give me her bag." Our hero keeps asking why he wants Chanbai's backpack. He says he's going to take the girl back to her house and then to the hospital right after. In a somewhat rude way, he goes ahead and pulls the girl's bag. And our hero does nothing because he didn't want to bother the couple and was even nervous, afraid of getting in the way, thinking they really liked each other. And that shameless Sang-woo still keeps saying that he was the best person to accompany the pretty girl, and even puts his hand on her waist, saying he was very close to her. Our hero watches the whole scene and can't hold back his frustration. And to make that pathetic situation even worse, the guy keeps saying that our hero can go to school alone. But of course, he can't stop noticing where that shameless guy's hand was holding. And it seemed like Chanbai wasn't even recognizing who she was with. And the only thing he can do is watch his romantic rival take the girl he loved. However, he asked the guy to wait, and Sang-woo looked back. The goofy protagonist was handing her phone over, and the guy thanks him, taking her back home. Cut our hero some slack, guys, because he really thinks the two of them are dating. That's why he acts that way. But deep down, he felt that something was strange. From what he knew, Sang-woo lived on the other side of the school, so it was strange for him to be walking down that street. However, it was better that way. Kang doesn't think much about it. Minutes later, he ends up taking the girl to her doorstep. She wasn't feeling well at all, and when she looks to the side, she recognizes it was Sang-woo. Putting her hand on her face, she says that she's a big bother to him, and even apologizes. That girl is really cute, guys, and he keeps saying that it's no trouble at all to be with her. With tears in her eyes, she keeps saying that he's already doing too much for her, and that it must even be frustrating to have a friend who only causes trouble. Smiling a little, he says that it's not frustrating at all, and that it's a pleasure to help her. The girl asks what he means by that, and it's very obvious that he's flirting with her. Then he says that she used to be in love with him, but now she's lost her memory, and he had even confessed his feelings. And after he had said he liked her, he was waiting for her answer about whether they would start dating. Meanwhile, our hero was there with Yeren. He had told her that his friend Chanbai had gotten sick, but he lied. He said he saw it all from the bus and only told her because Yeren kept insisting on knowing where Chanbai was. After telling the whole story, the girl said that Sang keeps bothering Chanbai, showing up all the time, and even said that our hero should do something because that guy was already crossing the line. But of course he didn't want to bother anyone and said he would go back to his seat to end the subject. At that moment, Dong ends up showing up trying to see what they were talking about. Then he calls out to Yeren and even signals with his hand for her to come over. And so the two of them start whispering some secrets. Right after that, Yeren goes to our hero and asks if he could grab that for her. Grab what? A phone call. Just take it. Take my phone. And when he holds the phone, he hears Chanbai's voice. The guy is already in shock because she's on the other end of the line. She was trying to understand what her friend was up to, and all of this was a plan by Dong together with Yeren to try to bring the two of them closer. "Yeah, it's me, Kang. Yeah? My god, what do I say?" He was already nervous just from hearing her voice. He had asked if she was okay, and she said yes, that she got better after receiving IV fluids at the hospital. At that moment, she realized it was just one of Yeren's tricks to make her talk to Kang, and he keeps pretending, saying that he thought she was going to die this morning. At that moment, she remembered that in fact it was him who had helped her, and she started asking if it was really him who was there that morning, and he said yes. Then the girl starts screaming nervously, saying that it was so embarrassing, and even apologizes. It hit her that she had thrown up on him. At that moment, the girl's brother shows up, taking the phone from her hand. The guy thought it was urine and asked the person on the other end to take good care of his little sister, since she was diagnosed with exhaustion. But Chanbi snatched the phone from his hand, saying that it wasn't urine on the other end of the line. But that didn't matter. Her porridge was already ready. The girl said that she was too old to be eating porridge. No way, girl. You should eat healthy food. And to be honest, it actually looked pretty good. By the way, the old phone she used before the accident was already being fixed. She said she didn't need the old phone since she already had a new one, but he said that maybe it could help her recover her memories. And pay attention, guys, because this phone is going to be very important to uncover the whole mystery. Her brother even scolds her, saying that all this she's going through is because she was working at that part-time job. The scene changes to another day later at school. She notices that the place looks a little different since she had lost her memory from the past year. She was drinking a soda, and when she passed by two boys, they started teasing her. The girl was really beautiful, which is why the guys kept flirting, and she even started feeling insecure. Right after that, she ran inside the school. A classmate asked if she was already feeling better since yesterday she seemed sick. Our heroine said she had already recovered, and next that short-haired girl asked if she remembered a meeting with the rail guys. But she didn't remember anything and didn't even know what meeting that was. Losing her memory was really annoying because it felt like she was placed in another world. At that moment, she saw someone passing by calling out to Sangwoo, and the boy shows up right after, waving at her. Was this the guy I liked before losing my memory? After classes, it felt like her head was going to explode because she was trying so hard to remember everything. Luckily, that meeting was postponed and she didn't have to go through that embarrassment. During that school day, she wrote everything that had happened in her phone so she wouldn't forget again. It was desperate to feel like you'd lost an entire year and now had to recover all your memories. That's why the poor girl started to panic, guys. And meanwhile, her friends were there talking to each other, not caring at all about poor Chanbi. They invite her to eat something after school and she says yes because yesterday she only ate porridge. And that way they go to a restaurant. Our hero is also going out with his friend Dong, and they comment that they're feeling really hungry. The redhead shows up and they start inviting themselves to go to his house. At that moment, they end up bumping into Chanbi. And now another question arises. Where were they going? She said that her friends had given up on going out to eat, so she was going alone. And surprisingly, she had some coupons for a restaurant nearby. Dong keeps saying that this restaurant is really good and that it was even the place she used to eat often with our hero. Then he points his finger to the other side of the street. It was a Vietnamese restaurant, and the girl keeps asking if they could go there with her, even showing all those fully stamped cards. At that moment, Kang remembers when he introduced that dynamite-style Vietnamese restaurant to Chanbi, so he ends up saying that she really liked the food there. Wait a minute, girl. You have 3 cards and all of them are stamped. You must be the #1 fan of that place. She asks if Kang was also a regular customer there, and Dong points at his friend, saying that he goes there 7 times a week. Wow, so you really like that restaurant. Let me see if I remember. She gives a little laugh. She couldn't wait to try the food from that place. He could very well have said that he was the one who introduced that place to the girl, but he didn't say anything. He was feeling like he was reliving all the interactions he had with her in the past, and because of that, the big guy fell completely in love again and ran off to go to the restaurant with her. When they arrived there, our protagonist said that she liked to eat spicy noodles, but according to Chanbi's memories, she said she didn't like spicy food. While looking at the menu, our protagonist is totally love-struck, guys. He even tries to hide it so he won't keep staring at her the whole time. Reaching out his hand, he points to an item on the menu, saying that she always ordered that one. You always ordered these spicy noodles. Look, this one. Are you sure? Well, as far as I remember, I don't like spicy things, so she ends up deciding to order another dish. While waiting for the order to arrive, she takes out her phone and starts posting some photos. Dong asks why she's taking so many pictures, and she says it's to post on social media. Wait. Are you going to keep posting pictures all the time of everything you do? He even asks how many stories she posts per day, and we can see that it's impossible to count, guys. There must be around 1,000. Then she explains that this ended up being useful to make sure her memories wouldn't be erased. Our protagonist was there pouring hot tea and offered it to his friend while he was all upset about the girl's erased memories. Handing over the cup, Kang asks if she remembers the summer trip she took, and the girl says she doesn't, and it would be good to recover her old phone to see the pictures she had taken. Dong tells her to check her story history to see the photos she had posted, and the girl sees a picture of a little dove there on April 8th and even shows it to Dong to see if he knew what it was. Right after that, they show a photo to our protagonist and even ask who he thinks the person in the background was. In that picture, it was him together with Creamy on April 20th. That had happened about a month ago, but he didn't say it was him. The girl asks if he knew who it was. Since it wasn't long ago, it would be good for her to know who was next to her in that photo. But our boy was too shocked and even embarrassed because he didn't want to admit that it was him beside her. She revealed that Sangwoo told her it was him next to her on those stairs, so she wanted to confirm it with her friends to see if it was true. Poor Kang was completely confused because that guy was lying. Wait a second, was it Sangwoo who told you that? And she confirmed, saying yes. The guy even started trembling with anger. However, he didn't want to get in the couple's way, but it was an outrageous lie, since it was him who had been there with his leg next to hers, and she even had a bandage he had put on her. That day they had spent the whole afternoon studying at camp and later stayed together on the stairs, but since Sangwoo was a very trustworthy guy, it didn't make sense that he would lie. All tense, he asked, "Why the hell would that guy make up a lie like that?" They were told the food had arrived, and our hero tried to act natural so it wouldn't seem like he was nervous. Since the first time she ate at that place was because of his recommendation, the big guy was all happy. And so they completed another stamp. The first time he took her there, the girl fell in love with the ramen and even said it was the best food she had ever eaten in her life. And after a few days she ran to show our hero the little card which already had a lot of stamps. She had become the #1 customer of that place. That's why the guy was so happy in the present, because he had reintroduced her to that restaurant so attentively. He kept watching to see if she liked it and then asked what she thought of the food. Thinking about it, the food was reasonably good. She had gotten her hopes too high, so she was disappointed. And of course he was sad because that restaurant was supposed to be special. After they finished eating, Chanbi said they could transfer the money to her. Then the big guy immediately asked her to send her bank information. However, Dong had left his phone in the bathroom and ran there to get it. Our hero makes a joke saying his friend is really clumsy. Then the girl turns to him and asks why he didn't eat that much, since he was such a big fan of that restaurant. In fact, he hadn't eaten much because he was too busy admiring her beauty, but he had to play it off. To change the subject, he asks if she thinks it was worth coming to have lunch at that restaurant. She says that since she had 3 stamped coupons, she thought the food would be better, so it ended up being a bit disappointing. She could have eaten the dish he had recommended, and next time she comes back she'll get the one he mentioned. A bit embarrassed, he asks her again for her bank information, but she says there's no need. Since she caused him so much trouble yesterday by throwing up on his foot, she would pay for this ramen as compensation. Wait, I can't accept that, it's too expensive. And to ruin the whole mood, Sangwoo ends up showing up, and it seemed like he had been spying because he heard what they said and even made a comment. Chanbi asks if he wasn't supposed to stay later at the summer school, and the guy says no, arriving there to ruin the atmosphere and leaving our hero all sad. Dong shows up and asks Kang where Chanbi was, and when he looks ahead he realizes she's there talking to that jerk. He was asking her out and the girl said she couldn't, so they scheduled it for next week. And it was as if our hero had taken a shock to the chest. I get it. So they're even setting up a date. It looks like I really lost to that guy. The only thing I should do now is accept my end. But why would Sangwoo lie to her? After the girl was already leaving, he went back to the bus stop calling out to that guy. Wait, Kang, why did you come back here? Actually, our hero wanted to ask that guy a question. Alright, I can't waste too much time. I need to get straight to the point and ask the question. He questioned Sangwoo, asking why he told Chanbi that the person in her Instagram photos on the stairs was him. Yeah man, the person next to her in those stories is me, not you. Sangwoo pretends to play dumb and says that the person in that photo was him. However, our hero denies it, saying that Chanbi fell for his lie. But then Sangwoo makes an evil face, takes a deep breath, and even cracks his neck. And with a scary look, he asks what the hell Kang was talking about. Chanbi took that photo when she was with me. Kang started to doubt his own memories, but he stood firm, saying that it wasn't him in those photos. Then Sangwoo began threatening him, saying he should remember things correctly. At that moment, our hero started feeling a bit more tense, asking if by any chance he wasn't the one who was confused. But then he realized that this guy was evil. He whispered quietly that it wasn't him who was there. It didn't make sense that Chanbi had felt in love with him all this time when in the end she was dating Sangwoo. That would only make sense if all of this was just a joke. And he ended up looking like a fool. Poor hero thought he had been deceived. Guys, at that moment, Sangwoo's bus arrived and he said goodbye. And that's how the boy stood still at the bus stop like a statue. Meanwhile, Sangwoo was thoughtful and even a little tense, imagining that something might be wrong. We'll still see what that guy is up to, whether he's telling the truth or not. The scene shifts to Chanbi and she was at a vending machine. Her friend shows up, giving her quite a scare. She had heard that Chanbi was going on a date with Sangwoo, and she asks when that's gonna be. She was a bit tense because the guy was waiting for her answer about whether they were going to date or not, since he had confessed to her. That's why she felt pressured to go out with him soon and give her final answer. Yurine asked why Chanbi had that weird expression, and to play it off she placed a cold soda against her friend's cheek. Yurine was rooting for her friend to date Sangwoo, and Chanbi made a strange face since she wasn't really in the mood to date. She even said that she and Sangwoo were just friends, and didn't believe she really liked him before losing her memory. Besides, her friend was always exaggerating and shouldn't talk so much about that guy. She immediately grabs a lipstick to start putting on makeup, and her friend asks what that nonsense she's holding is, and tries to stop Chanbi from putting on makeup. And so they wage a fierce battle in the school hallway. Right after, Yurine manages to snatch the lipstick and runs away, saying it's for her friend's own good since she used to wear exaggerated makeup. Chanbi runs after her friend to try to get the lipstick back, and we see that the beauty was much faster and even managed to grab her friend by the hair. Yurien keeps saying it's for her friend's good since the teachers would make her remove that makeup by force, but in Chanbi's mind she thought nothing bad would happen if she wore just a little makeup. That was the problem, guys. She didn't wear just a little makeup. The boys start staring at them asking, "What was that?" "Calm down, guys, it's not a fight, we're just talking." Meanwhile, Kang was inside the classroom hearing everything. Before losing her memory, it was Chanbi who started forcing contact with him. She always showed up when he stayed late at school studying, and on the very day she had the accident, the girl had invited him on a date. Since he was a coward, he ended up backing out and didn't accept her invitation. This guy here was a coward. Then Kang goes to Sang-woo and talks about what happened yesterday at the bus stop. However, he ends up showing his phone and there was that photo our hero had mentioned. Thinking about it, maybe she took similar pictures with both of us. But surely the person in this photo is me. After all, Chanbi wouldn't take a picture with you, right? A stupid nerd. She'd definitely prefer someone like me, athletic. That guy was such a jerk, guys. And he keeps saying things like that to our hero. He even says our hero is lying because he likes Chanbi. Since Kang was an insecure guy, he started to believe that lunatic and even said that just because Chanbi posted a photo with him, he got all delusional thinking she was in love. However, our hero says he had a good reason to ask that. Even with his head down, he says that before Chanbi lost her memory, they were becoming more than just friends. But Sang-woo keeps mocking him, saying that's a lie. However, Kang reveals that Chanbi liked him, not Sang-woo. But the conceited boy keeps saying that's all in Kang's head. Just because he was a scared nerd, he implies he keeps fantasizing things, and because of that, people would think Chanbi was a bad girl. He even starts painting our hero as if he were the villain of the story, like he wanted to ruin the girl's reputation. The arrogant boy turns off the faucet and seriously asks if Kang is really saying that Chanbi is worthless. At that moment, Chanbi ends up appearing there, dropping a soda can, and the guy immediately acts all fake, calling out to her. Magnificently, she stands up and calls out to Sang-woo, asking if it was him saying her name. Then she asks if their date for the weekend is still on, and our poor hero just stands there watching this whole painful scene. "By the way, Chanbi, you're wearing lipstick, aren't you?" She said yes, that she put on makeup because she felt her face was too pale, and the guy keeps complimenting her, saying she looks very pretty, and our hero watches everything. At that moment, Sang-woo asks Kang if they were done talking. It seems best to leave them alone. He was feeling deceived and decided he would leave Chanbi behind so she could live happily ever after with Sang-woo. But what he didn't expect was that the girl actually liked him. Guys, but of course, he wouldn't give up that easily on the beauty, because he truly loved her, so he runs after Sang-woo and reaches out his hand, calling for him. Actually, he had thought about it again, but at that moment he got scared, guys, and said he was confused and that Sang-woo should forget everything he said. Maybe his mind was too cluttered from studying, that's why he got confused. That jerk just looks at our hero with an evil grin, and then leaves with the girl Kang liked. She even looks back to check if Kang was okay and asks Sang-woo if he had argued with him, but he says no. "Well, it seemed like you were arguing, though." He assures her it wasn't a fight and changes the subject, asking what she'd like to do on their date. Taking out his phone, he shows her some restaurants with good reviews. Then he ends up holding the girl's hand. For Koreans, that's something out of this world, and she started feeling nervous from that touch and even pulled her hand away, changing the subject, asking about those restaurants. All nervous, she said it could be Japanese food. He asks if that touch on her hand made her uncomfortable, and even said that she used to hold his hand first before she lost her memory. And getting closer to Chanbi, he says that before the girl lost her memory, she had confessed her feelings to him. Of course, this makes the girl all worried and dying of embarrassment. "Did I really say that? Are you serious?" Smiling, he said yes, that she was hopelessly in love with him. But deep down, he was thinking that his plan had worked perfectly since he was stealing the feelings she had for Kang. Yeah, guys, the boy ended up confirming to us that he really was a liar, and everything she felt for Kang, he was trying to transfer those feelings to himself. Sang-woo was in love with Chanbi, but it didn't matter that the feeling he was building was a lie. What really mattered was that he could be with her. The scene changes to inside the classroom, and they were watching a romance movie. They were shocked by that scene, and our hero was all sad. The bell rings and they could finally go home. And the redhead was there all emotional about that movie, saying it was the best film he had ever seen in his life. While everyone said it was really good, our hero said he felt sorry for the protagonist. Dong ends up calling him and says that he should keep doing what he did yesterday with Chanbi. "What do you mean? What did I do?" "You were a gentleman, man. Women like men who treat them well." And he even said that it was no use if he just kept staring at her all day. He needed to take action. His friend walks ahead and he stays behind, wondering if he really does spend all day looking at her. It's like you at school, the one who doesn't have the courage to approach the girl and just keeps staring. Later, Sang-woo had also finished his extra class and was walking home all excited. The guy was a real stalker. He was already thinking about when he would meet the pretty girl again. He even went to her classroom to see if the girl was still there. However, after he said those things to her in the hallway, it seemed like she was avoiding him as much as possible, and they weren't walking together anymore. He even wondered if the girl was avoiding him, and once on the bus he starts making several calls to her. However, it kept ringing and she didn't answer. The guy had already tried to call her twice in a row and it was obvious that she was avoiding him. Guys looking at the phone screen, he asks if by any chance he was being ignored. Maybe it's because I held her hand, but she could at least answer my calls. Oh no way. I can't stop calling her. The guy had already made 5 calls in a row. However, he decided to stop calling and put on his earphones. This weird guy had been recording Chanbi's voice during their conversations. All that just so he could listen later on his way home. And we see that the guy recorded exactly 3:39 minutes of audio. This one's a real stalker, guys. The next day, Kang was late again and the teacher says that another student was also late so she would pair them up. The guy laughs, saying it's good not to be alone, and the teacher starts pinching his arm. After he walks into the classroom, his red-haired friend keeps asking why he was late, and the only thing he could focus on was Chanbi sitting in the back. She was laughing with her friends and he keeps saying she's very beautiful. He couldn't stop focusing his eyes on the girl, guys, and even during class he couldn't take his eyes off her. It seemed like she shined more than anyone else. Meanwhile, Chanbi was a little worried. She wasn't feeling anything for Sangwoo, so it was very unlikely that she liked him before losing her memory. She didn't even believe she used to hold that boy's hand, and since he had confessed to her, she should give him an answer as soon as possible. But in the past 2 days she had visited her mother, so she hadn't had time to reply to the messages he sent. If I hadn't lost my memories, would I already be dating him? The girl even wonders if by dating Sangwoo she might recover her feelings. But it was hard to think about that, guys, because she didn't feel anything for him, and even said she never liked anyone, especially because she's the type of girl who's confident and full of attitude. If she liked someone, she would have confessed already. But we can see that's not what happened, guys. She was very shy. After class, our hero goes to his teacher. She had asked him to take this item to the music room, and even said she would give him a reward. Meanwhile, he was looking at Chanbi, who was talking to another teacher about her delayed subjects. Since she lost her memory of the past 12 months, she would have to study everything again. I think that would be the worst part, guys. Our hero keeps thinking about it and even says that it must be very hard for her to catch up on all those subjects. He remembers when she got sick and felt bad, but now she looked much healthier, and that was a relief to him. At that moment, she ends up arriving there in the music room. The guy gets all nervous, asking what she was doing there. After entering inside, she puts the book on her face and starts complaining as if she were feeling very angry, and he was there embarrassed because he was watching that scene. She starts crying loudly and says she would rather just die. He had stayed hidden until she left that classroom, and when the bell rang, everyone ran to the cafeteria, saying that today there was pork belly. Yeren got all excited, saying that this was her favorite food, and the girl said to call Chanbi because she was going to miss lunch. But she had a lot to do, and our hero remembered that she was quite sad, so he decided to go to her classroom. When he got there, he hid behind the wall. She was sad because she would have to study the entire last school year. Guys, I don't blame her. If it were me, I would cry too. At that moment, he appeared at the door calling the girl and asked if by any chance she wasn't going to eat at the cafeteria, because today there was pork fat. He was alone with her inside that classroom, and she said she wouldn't eat because she had too much to do today. Smiling shyly, he stayed there not knowing what to say, and once again created that awkward scene where no one says anything. But what about you, Kang? Are you not going to eat either? Oh right, I have a stomachache. She gets all worried and says that he should rest a little, but that it wasn't anything serious. Trying to play it off, he says he's going to sit back there at his desk, and the girl notices that he was all tense, but she thought that he was just bored because he had nothing to do. Then she hid her hand on the desk and said that he could sit by her side. It wouldn't be very fun to sit next to her since she was studying, but he could spend some time there with her. Of course, that sounded like music to his ears, and he didn't think twice before sitting down right away. He looked at the subject she was studying and said that she would do well, especially because before losing her memory, she was one of the best students. Next, he offered a lollipop to the girl and said that she might need something sweet to help her focus. Chanbi thanks him, and he says that he won't bother her anymore, but the girl says that he doesn't bother her at all. After that, he gets all tense, pretending to be on his phone, because he had no topic to talk about with her. Actually, he did have things to say, but he didn't want to interrupt her studies. When he looked to the side, she was chewing the lollipop all tense. Then he asked the girl why she is so upset. She explains that she isn't able to solve those math problems, and since our dear nerd was very smart, he said that he could help her. When he grabbed the notebook, he immediately knew the answers and said that if she wanted, he could teach her. Without much difficulty, he started giving some explanations. At that moment, the girl realized that Kang was very smart, and was even surprised, saying that he was a math genius. Ah, now I get it. You explain better than the teachers, to be honest. The girl even says that she would love to have him as her teacher, and the guy falls completely in love. I'm sure you would fall in love too, so don't judge the guy. Here I think she was already exaggerating, because she said that our hero could be a math teacher instead of the traditional one, and of course that was the best day of his life. After that, he even forgot about the promise he had made to leave her alone with that other stuck-up guy. After class, he went with his friends to a LAN house, but instead of playing, the boy was studying. All of that so he could teach Chanbi in a more detailed way. Dong even asks why he's studying math instead of playing, and the redhead even said that our protagonist abandoned them during the gameplay, but he was sending photos of his notebook so that Chanbi could study. She sent him a message thanking him, and he was basically bursting with happiness. Next, she sent some messages asking if he still had his old notebooks, and he said yes and that he could lend them to her. And it was settled, guys. She would go on Monday to get those books from him, and they arranged it for around 2 in the afternoon. At that moment, his phone started ringing, and he answered it. His mother was asking if he was going to have lunch with them, and our hero said no because he had something very important to do that day. It was already Monday, and basically 1 hour was left before the girl would arrive, but the boredom was so great that he was trying to do anything to make time pass faster. He even went in front of the mirror to fix his hair, wondering if by any chance he looked handsome. Chanbi had arrived earlier, and he went downstairs to the building to hand her the books. She apologized for coming early, and the guy, all embarrassed, said that it was no problem. She said that his house was really close to hers, and then she opened her bag for him to put the books inside. He had brought other notebooks with notes in case she needed them, and when she opened those pages she even got dizzy because it looked so hard. Hold on, is this advanced math or not? Well, kind of. Actually, it's intermediate level. The boy finally had the courage to offer to sit with her at the park to take a look at the notes. Go ahead, Kang. We're rooting for you. She said that those numerical expressions looked like alien language, but now that she had his notebook, she could study without interrupting him. The guy says that it's no trouble at all to help her. Quite the opposite, he feels happy and even says that he will repay everything she did for him. And the girl gets confused, asking what she did. He explains that at the end of last year they ended up in the same class and were put in the same group to do a difficult project. At that time he didn't understand anything about intermediate math, and she ended up helping him. Because of that, he was just returning the favor. She asks if he's sure about that because it seemed like a lie. It looked like she had activated her female sixth sense and discovered that he was just telling a little lie. She even thought that he was making up that story so she wouldn't feel bad and could study more math. That was very kind of him. So she agrees, saying that she will accept his help. Of course the boy thought that was amazing, and she stood up thanking him, saying that he was helping a lot. After she left, the guy stayed there frozen in shock. That was literally the best day of his life, and he says out loud that it was great while it lasted. He gets up saying that he's going back home to play a bit. However, Sang-woo ends up appearing behind him, asking what he just said. I tell you, this guy is a stalker. Meanwhile, Chanbi was calling Sang-woo since they had a date. That guy had called her about 10 times in a row. The girl even wonders how she liked someone so weird before losing her memory. After all, calling someone 10 times in a row who isn't even your girlfriend is kind of strange, right? At that moment, she sees an old friend and ends up calling out to the girl. Her name was Xiung, and it seemed like she was ignoring Chanbi. She even got close to the girl, and she pretended not to recognize her and turned around with a snobbish face. Chanbi got a little scared by that reaction, and the girl simply turned around and left, leaving poor Chanbi standing there not understanding anything. Wait, I just got rejected by an old friend. She used to be so nice to me. Why is she doing this? The scene goes back a few minutes earlier when Sang-woo arrived there by bus. He was worried about Chanbi, so he decided to go to her house, and by coincidence her house was in the same direction as our heroes. He was desperately calling her, and that's when he saw Chanbi meeting with Kang. They were together in a park. The guy was on another level of stalker, guys, to the point of following the person he liked. At that moment he was sure that Kang hadn't given up on being with her. He even imagined that our hero had lied to him when he said he would give up on Chanbi, and it was at that moment that he heard our hero saying that it was good while it lasted. And back to the present, he had appeared behind Kang, asking what he had just said. Of course our hero got really scared with that guy appearing out of nowhere. Hey, what are you doing here, man? Hold on, are you real? I'm not hallucinating, am I? He ends up waving his hand in front of Sang-woo and realizes that it was real. That shameless guy gives a lame excuse saying that he was going to school and just happened to pass through that park. And of course Kang got kind of embarrassed because that was really awkward. So he makes another excuse saying that he was just delivering notebooks to Chanbi so she could study. Stop explaining yourself, man. You don't owe that guy any explanation. He even wonders why he was sticking his nose where it didn't belong. I just don't want to get any wrong ideas. I don't want the girl who's about to become my girlfriend going out with other guys. If I find out that you're hitting on my girlfriend, things are going to get ugly. Kang gets a little scared, and that jerk keeps threatening our hero, saying that if he meets Chanbi again, he will suffer the consequences. And he even asks why Kang keeps interfering in that relationship. And the only thing our hero can think is how Sang-woo can be so terrifying. Our hero tells him to calm down, but the guy ends up touching his shoulder and says again for him not to get close to Chanbi. Clearly he was being threatened. After that, he decides to try meeting Chanbi again and was thinking that after that threat, the boy wouldn't get in his way anymore, especially since Kang could ruin everything, because after all, he wasn't the one Chanbi liked. And every time he saw Chanbi, he said it was a miracle that she was talking to him again, and he even says that those reactions she has show that she's truly falling in love with him. At that moment, he ends up meeting her and says that it was pure coincidence that they met on the way. Coincidence, my foot. He even says that her backpack looks a bit heavy and offers to carry it. She was a bit tense being near him, and the guy asks what happened. She said that something strange happened and asks if he knows a girl named Xiong. He didn't know her, but he starts pretending that he does. Chanbi reveals that she saw this girl at the bus stop but was ignored. That jerk doesn't even know who this girl is, and just keeps pretending he was worried, saying that maybe she didn't recognize her. However, Chanbi says that they were very close friends in elementary school, and it was strange because she was always very kind. The guy doesn't care about the story she's telling and immediately offers his gift. A bit embarrassed, she thanks him, and the guy says that he will walk her home. And next he keeps saying that he will investigate to find out why Xiong was so rude. Although he didn't know this girl, he had already heard her name somewhere. The scene changes to a cafe. He was a bit dazed, and one of his friends arrives saying that it's been a long time since they've seen each other. This is Xiong, the girl who had ignored Chanbi. She mentions that another friend will arrive in about 10 minutes, and while cutting her dessert, she says she has some news. She says that she saw Chanbi on her way there, and even says that she acted a little strange. It was as if Chanbi didn't remember the fight they had some time ago, and Kang says that she really doesn't remember because she forgot everything that happened in the past year. Of course, Xiong doesn't believe it, but our hero promises, saying that it's true that she really forgot everything. So that's why she acted friendly with her at the bus stop. And of course, Xiong starts feeling guilty because the girl was being friendly, and she was very rude. Kang says that she had an accident at work, and after that she lost her memory, which was something rare, and the girl says that it even sounds like a soap opera story. Next, she asks if perhaps she should apologize to the girl, and since she had seen a bandage on Chanbi's forehead, probably what our hero was saying was true. And thinking about it, the girl's face was quite marked, as if she had dark circles. Putting all this information together, she started to believe what our hero was saying. The boy keeps saying that she should apologize because she was very rude. Since she lost the memory of the last 12 months, she didn't remember their fight. And while eating, the girl keeps saying that she feels sorry for her, and because of that, it wouldn't be worth continuing the fight with the girl. The scene returns to Chanbi, and she had spilled her juice on the floor. She was on a video call with her friends, telling them what had happened at the bus stop, and they even scolded her, saying she should clean that floor right away or it would get stained. After telling the whole story about Xiong, they keep saying that this girl is really rude. But that wasn't the memory Chanbi had of her old friend. So the girls keep trying to figure out why Xiong had treated Chanbi badly, and since they didn't know any information, they said they would investigate. The girls kept asking our heroine when she was going out again with Sang-woo. She ends up looking at that gift bag he had given her, and she didn't feel anything romantic for him. She even wondered what she had been thinking to like a guy like him. When she tried her hardest to remember Sang-woo, she ended up feeling angry. In real life, losing memory wasn't romantic at all like in the movies, and none of the stories Sang-woo told her made her recover her memories like in TV dramas. Something she was sure about was that she didn't want to date someone in a forced way. However, every time she tried to remember the past, she ended up feeling bad. Her head hurt a lot, and she couldn't remember anything. The next day at school, she decided to call Sang-woo. The boy turns around, and she was determined to give her final answer. But when the time came, she got very embarrassed. The only thing she needed to tell that boy was that she wanted to be just his friend. However, the poor girl froze, she couldn't say anything. Then Sang-woo ends up asking if she found out what happened with that friend who ignored her at the bus stop. However, Chanbi says that she didn't meet anyone who knew about that girl, so she will keep investigating. They keep walking through the school hallways, and she was all tense. My god, Chanbi, you just need to say that you want to be only friends. It's easy. At that moment, she turns around all determined. She pressed her lips together, and it looked like she was mute, unable to speak. And because of that, she even turned her face away, and the guy fell completely in love. He thought that she was truly in love with him, and trying to cover it up, she asked if he would like to go out for dinner tonight. Laughing happily, he said that he would love to. He thought that she was that nervous because she was shy about asking him out, and even imagined that his plan of pretending to be Kang was working. At that moment, Chanbi's brother appears at the school gate. He was angry, asking why she wasn't answering the phone. All embarrassed, she comes running and tells him to speak more quietly. That's because he was embarrassing her in front of her friends. Some classmates even say there's a crazy guy at the school gate and that they should call the teachers. At that moment, her brother ends up handing over a bag. He had brought those snacks because she had been complaining all weekend, and we see that the guy was handsome. Even the classmates there, when they saw Chanbi's brother's face, fell in love. However, that was drawing too much attention, and she didn't know where to hide her embarrassed face. The girl's brother asked who that boy behind her was, and she felt really embarrassed. Of course, he was the protective brother, right guys? And Sang-woo keeps saying hello, pretending to be nice. Naturally, he didn't like that jerk at all. From inside the car, he was wondering who that guy was who kept paying so much attention to his little sister. But she wasn't a baby anymore, as her brother was used to thinking. And that's why he went back to the gate and said that if she started dating someone, he would make sure to kill that man. Then he handed over a few more snacks to his sister. Sang-woo shows up at the gate and tells her brother to go back carefully. Looks like your brother doesn't like me, does he? She keeps apologizing and says she brought him those snacks because she was hungry. Her brother had also given her his old phone, which he had repaired. At that moment the guy looked dumbfounded since she wouldn't be able to see the messages on that old phone. The girl's phone had been broken during the accident at the store where she worked, and that's why she hadn't seen those old messages. Looking at that phone, the guy said he would need to destroy that evidence. We're already curious to know what this guy is hiding so much. She could have just deleted them. There's no way she still has those messages today. She tries to type in her password, but it seems she had completely forgotten it. With that, the guy had a few more minutes to think of an alternative to save himself since she couldn't remember the password she had set. Trying to shift the focus from that phone, Sangwoo says that it's already time for P class. She puts the phone back into that bag and says she'll ask her brother what the password was, and he keeps watching closely where she put it so he can destroy the evidence later. The scene cuts to our hero along with his friend Dong complaining about the heat. They were eating chips and that kind of snack reminded him of the girl, and every time he thought of Chanbi, the voice of that jerk threatening him would echo again. The redhead ends up showing up there saying the day is amazing and even comments that he loves physical exercise. Right after he says he just witnessed the scariest thing in his life, Dong doesn't care at all about the redhead's gossip and offers him some chips. Wait a minute guys, didn't you hear what I just said? He tells them he was walking down the hallway and ended up bumping into blood. Their earphones fell to the floor, and when he bent down to pick them up he got confused and put Sangwoo's earphone in his ear. And what he ended up hearing was something terrifying guys. Basically it was Chanbi's voice speaking a bit shyly. Sangwoo asked the redhead to hand over the earphones since they had picked them up by mistake, and that's when he noticed something really bizarre. Sangwoo recorded people's voices. He tells this to his friends while eating chips, and our hero listens to all that weirdness, even starting to cry. Poor guy. I've seen protagonists suffer before, but our Kang here, poor thing, that shameless guy even went to Chanbi's classroom to get her phone. He knew which one was her backpack, and when he opened the zipper he grabbed the girl's phone, and with that he ran through the hallways and went to the shoe locker area. He had already seen her type that little password a few times, so he had memorized it. He needed to check the entire call history, messages, photos, and also the notes. Since that incident with him happened in November, he needed to erase everything up to May. He entered the password he had already seen and luckily managed to unlock it. Poor Chanbi had no idea and even mentioned that her brother had just sent a message with the password. Yerin was really curious and said they needed to go there and get the phone, but Chanbi wasn't very interested. What do you mean, girl? Aren't you curious to see the photos and notes you made? She was kind of curious, but not enough to skip P.E. class. Meanwhile, that shameless guy was deleting everything. He was in the corner of that room erasing messages, and then he opened the call history to delete everything there. Now he only needed to check some photos, but when he opened the gallery there were about 20,982 images. Damn, I won't be able to check all of these. So the only thing he could do was delete all the albums. Out of curiosity, he ends up opening a few photos, and sees that she really liked taking selfies. He starts deleting them one by one and realizes that her phone had many photos of Kang. It was obvious that this girl was madly in love with him, and that made Sangwoo die of jealousy. With that, the guy started deleting all the images since November, but it was gonna take a while, and at that moment Chanbi asks what they should do. Yerin had convinced her to skip P class, and that's why they were heading to the classroom to get the phone. Of course, they couldn't let the teacher see that they were sneaking out of class, and while they were trying to act natural, the boy shows up asking what they were doing. Chanbi whispers very quietly saying that they're trying to skip P.E. class. If you've ever skipped class in your life, comment below. I'm not gonna comment so I don't incriminate myself, but those two were sneaking out by the side of the court and right after they started running. However, the redhead ended up pulling Chanbi back and splashed water on her face. They said she couldn't skip P.E. class because it was really important, and she asks why that idiot threw water in her face. They said they couldn't skip class, but they could come up with an excuse to leave early. Now that she was wet, she could go to the bathroom to dry herself. That bastard, he was hiding near the bathroom deleting those images, and he even asked why there was so much movement in that place, since it was usually pretty empty. To check if the place was safe, he poked his head out. There were still many albums left for him to delete, and at that moment the ones who arrived there were exactly Dong and Kang. They ended up seeing the boy messing with that phone, and Dong asks what he was doing there. Holding the phone, he tries to play it off, saying he was going to the bathroom, and without making sudden movements he slowly hides the phone and gives an awkward laugh, saying he was using the bathroom on that floor because it was cleaner. However, Kang had seen that phone in his hand and let the boy leave while he tried to act normal. He even started walking faster, and at that moment the bell rang. Chanbi would be returning to her classroom, so he had to return the phone. Smiling in relief, he said he almost got caught. All he needed to do now was put the phone back in the girl's backpack, and when he turned the corner, she was already at the door. She looks in his direction and the girl says she came to get her phone since her brother had told her the password. Trying to change the subject, he asks why she's wet, and she says it's nothing serious. And you, Sangwoo? Why are you here so early? Giving an awkward laugh, he needed an excuse to return that phone. But at that moment, Kang shows up behind him, grabs his arm, and asks the boy to show the phone he had in his pocket. The guy freezes, guys. Come on, show the phone you're holding. That jerk pretends he doesn't know what our guy is talking about. And poor Chambi gets scared and even hides behind the door. However, she gets curious and asks what they were talking about. Sangwoo gets really tense, afraid of getting caught. Even Dong asks Kang why he was so obsessed with the boy's phone. However, that phone wasn't his, and the girl ends up recognizing that little shine on the back of the phone. So she goes over, takes it, and sees that it's actually her device. Hey Sangwoo, why were you with my phone? Oh my god, he's screwed. He gets all embarrassed and says that when she went to PE class, she accidentally left that phone with him. Dong is listening to that little story while Sangwoo is there lying. He had kept her phone and was now about to return it to her classroom. That's a lie because you were messing with her files. Yeah guys, our hero is getting mad, and he says he saw him looking through Chambi's gallery. Dong had also passed by him minutes earlier and confirms, saying he really was looking through the gallery. The guy was caught in the lie, guys, and there was nothing else he could say to get himself out of it. Then pretending he says he knew her password because he had seen her typing it several times. And since he liked Chambi, he couldn't resist his curiosity and went to look at her photos. The girl doesn't believe any of that because her gallery was empty, and she even starts scrolling up and down to see if that was true. Dong says there were some photos in her gallery when they saw it, and that's when she realizes he had deleted everything. With that, everyone starts questioning to find out what that boy had done on her phone. But the innocent Chambi believes Sangwoo and says he wouldn't have a reason to delete those images, or maybe he deleted them to hide something. When she says that, the guy freezes, and a bit hesitantly, she asks if he would really be capable of deleting her photos or not. However, Chambi is too kind-hearted, guys, and she doesn't believe he would do something that mean. She goes into her files looking for a folder where she kept notes of everything that happened during the day, and she sees that several folders had been deleted but there was still one left, and in that folder there were several screenshots of conversations. At that moment the guy realized he was screwed. She had saved a screenshot of Sangwoo sending her messages, and in those messages it was clear that she hated him since the guy was a stalker. He had found out that the girl lost her memories through our protagonist back in the bathroom, and after that day he thought he would have a new chance to be with Chambi, and since he knew the girl liked Kang, he would try to take his identity, especially because he knew Kang was a fool and wouldn't do anything. And at the same time he wondered what Chamba even saw in that stupid guy, but now that she had lost her memory, he would have another chance. She had forgotten everything he had done to her. Wait, she doesn't remember that she hates me? As soon as he found out, he went running to talk to her. And back to the present, Sangwoo's entire plan had fallen apart. There were several chat screenshots of messages he had sent her and the girl had saved them all. Holding up the phone, she asked what that was and if he was the one who sent all those messages. The guy was disgusting, guys, and she gets furious when she reads those messages. She reads them out loud and the guy just freezes. Even Dong, who had nothing to do with it, gets angry. And in a serious tone she asks why he was doing that to her. Yeah, my friend, you're done for. There was nowhere else to run, and she stood there waiting for an answer. That was undeniable proof. Then he looked at our hero and Kang was really angry. Answer now, Sangwoo, why did you do this? He gives a crazy little laugh and says he thought Kang had given up a long time ago and even seems surprised, saying he didn't expect Kang to be a man of action. Hearing those words, our hero gets furious and goes after him. He was about to punch the boy, imagining he was going to tell Chambi that Kang liked her. At that moment, Yarin passes by in the background and doesn't understand why that hallway was so tense. They decide to let Chambi talk to him alone, and the girl says she's really angry because he filled her head with false memories. And to make things worse, he even took her phone trying to hide his lies. He just agrees because there was nothing he could say to fix it. Since she had saved those screenshots, he must have done terrible things for her to be that angry, and the guy says he's just a crazy man in love. And that was exactly what she feared the most, guys. And she keeps saying that kind of person is disgusting. What's wrong with my feelings? I like you. Can't you understand that? And because I showed my love, you started to hate me. He even asks her to start liking him since he had been treating her well these past few days. Oh boy, do you really think she's going to give you a chance? She tells him to stop and asks if he even understands how serious what he did was. Listen here, you idiot. You made me have false memories and even deleted my photos from the gallery. I'm so stupid for believing in someone like you. She just wanted to ask one last thing. In one of the messages, he said he would make her forget a certain person, and the girl asks who that person was. She wanted to know if she had liked someone else who wasn't him. The person in question was actually Kang, but Sangwoo didn't want to say that. Going back a few months earlier, he was there confessing his love to the girl for the 1000th time, and even says that he's much more handsome and intelligent than Kang, and that if she accepted him as her boyfriend, he'd promise to be better than that nerdy idiot. She had refused, and the guy asked what the hell she saw in someone like that, and she got mad because he was belittling her feelings. Besides, who did he think he was to talk about the person she liked? And she shouts out loud that Kang is much better than him, especially because every time she looked at Sangwoo's face, she felt disgusted. And back to the present, he says it wasn't anyone she liked. Of course he wasn't going to tell the truth, guys, and she stands there doubting it, but it didn't matter, she didn't want to look at that jerk's face anymore. As she was leaving, he says he's sorry, but all he wanted was to be with her, and even admits it was irresponsible of him to hurt her feelings, and he even mentions that he ruined everything since they were supposed to go out together tonight. But then she reveals that she never liked him and had only agreed to that meeting to tell him they would just be friends. She had been feeling guilty, afraid of hurting his feelings, but now she realized she shouldn't have thought that way. From now on, she didn't want to talk to that guy anymore, let alone look at his face, and he should take this as if it were the last conversation they would ever have. And so the guy is left standing in the hallway. Besides having lost her memories, the girl had been made a fool by that idiot. At that moment, little Yurin shows up on the stairs. Dong had told her what happened, and she ran immediately to see if it was true. Chanbi admits that she was deceived by Sangwoo, and all nervous, she keeps saying they should beat that boy up. And at that moment, she grabs the girl's arms and asks her to hit her head, since she wanted to erase her memories once and for all. Poor thing, guys. I confess that I felt sorry for Chanbi at that moment. Yurin tells her to stop it, and at that moment she collapses in her friend's arms. She was crying a lot and asks what kind of crazy choices she made to get to this point. Kang and his friends were standing there in the hallway watching the whole scene, and Yurin asks them to leave, otherwise it would embarrass the girl even more. The boys start talking about how Sang had the courage to do that, and upon seeing the girl he loved crying, he began to feel hatred and thought he should go confront that shameless guy. Later, he ends up meeting Sangwoo outside the school and says he would like to talk to him. The guy stands there with a dumb look, and so they start walking along the same path. Kang asks why Sangwoo is ignoring him, but of course he was feeling ashamed and also moody. At that moment, he looks back with an evil face trying to scare our protagonist, and he reveals that he only did it because it was an opportunity given by the gods. Since he loved Chanbi, he would do whatever it took to be with her, and he starts yelling in the street, saying that if it weren't for Kang, he would have managed to win that girl over. Alright, but now after doing all that, are you happy? Chanbi went through a difficult moment and you went and did something even worse to her. We see that she was doing what? Crying a lot while her friends were trying to comfort her. The other friend was sleeping in the classroom, so she wasn't aware of what was going on. However, they were supposed to leave those problems aside and have fun at karaoke. The girls even say they're sorry to Chanbi. If they had known what was happening, they wouldn't have let her go through all that. At that moment, she gets up and grabs the song clipboard, saying she'll try to forget about it. She didn't want anyone mentioning that bastard's name from now on, and then puts on a really upbeat song. Xiang, who is the girl that ignored her back at the bus stop, starts calling Chanbi. The scene shifts back to that argument our protagonist was having, and Sangwoo says that Chanbi was deeply in love with Kang, and that's why she didn't want to like him. And upon hearing that, the boy gets all flustered and in love. Sangwoo even asks what kind of reaction that was. He couldn't understand how Chanbi liked someone like him, and asks if Kang had hypnotized her or something. Wait a minute, you knew about this all along and tried to trick me? He admits that yes, saying that Kang was a complete idiot. Hey kid, where do you think you're going? We're not done yet. One way or another you were going to get caught, so how did you have the guts to do something like that? With a bit of boredom, he said he didn't want to keep talking about it and even said he had to take the risk since she didn't have that old phone anymore. And on the other hand, Kang was too nice, so he wouldn't do anything. But in the end, he ended up being wrong because our protagonist ruined everything. Our hero hadn't stopped following the guys, and even went to a restaurant with him. Sangwoo was trying to ignore him to see if Kang would go away, and for the third time in a row, Kang asks how he had the courage to do that to the girl. Shouting, he said he did it because he loved Chanbi, and he said, I know, but I want you to tell me more about the feelings she had for me. After grabbing the package, he says he would never tell him that. But our protagonist didn't give up, guys, and kept following the boy. He kept insisting that the boy tell him about the feelings Chanbi had for him, and said that what he did to the girl was very insensitive. At that moment, he starts shouting and tells that idiot Kang to stay away from him. Listen here, kid. I've told you 1,000 times. Everything I did was because I liked her. He even touches Kang's shoulder and starts crying, saying that if it weren't for our hero, everything would have worked out. He started liking the girl at the end of last year. It was snowing, and she ended up handing him an umbrella so he wouldn't be alone in the cold. But now that she found out everything he did, she went back to those looks of hatred. And at that moment he started blaming Kang, saying that it was all his fault. If he had one more week, he was sure he could have dated Chanbi, and he even says he had already held her hand. He even says he should have been more daring, not just held her hand but kissed her. At that moment our hero ends up punching that bastard in the face. I confess that I had been waiting for that scene for a long time. The guy gets a bit dizzy, and then falls to the ground, gets up so they can finish their talk. Sangwoo is trembling all over and even holds his cheek, complaining that it hurt a lot. Kang approaches, saying that he was worse than trash. Chanbi had treated him very well and he made a fool out of her. If you really like her, do you think what you did was something cool? The boy's lunch had been smashed on the ground. Our protagonist kneels down, picks up the boy's lunch, and then apologizes for punching that shameless guy in the face. He shouldn't have apologized, he should have hit him even more. The guy even asks if Kang isn't going to tell Chanbi that in the past she had feelings for him, but our hero says he doesn't plan to do that. At that moment the guy realizes that our hero is very kind, and ends up revealing to him that the girl has liked him for a long time, and every time he spoke badly of Kang to Chanbi, she turned into a lion. The guy even starts crying, and our hero feels a little awkward, and at that moment he realizes he had already heard enough, and as he was leaving he decides to come back because he remembered something. He was demanding that this jerk delete all those recordings. He was even going to ask how the boy knew. Then he remembered that he had bumped into the redhead. Making up an excuse, he said that he was going to do that anyway and deleted all those recordings from his phone. Kang made sure he went into the trash folder and deleted them there too. Moments later, our hero goes to the convenience store. He just wanted to hear a bit of that jerk's side of the story. Next he starts choosing one of the sodas and is even surprised because he liked Chanbi and she liked him too. At that moment someone taps him on the back. The guy turns around getting quite a scare. And to his surprise it was exactly the cutie. She was all cheerful and the guy wonders if her anger had disappeared. That's because she had fun at karaoke with her friends and she says that now she has a bit of a headache from the loud noise. However, Kang shouldn't worry because she wasn't stressed anymore. She had only found out she was being made a fool of because of Kang, so she was going to buy him something at the store. He keeps saying that he can't accept that, but she insists, so he ends up picking some snacks, and after they leave the store he says that actually he should be the one paying for her. The girl, a bit curious, asks how he knew that guy had her phone. A bit embarrassed, he says he recognized the back of her phone because of that charm she had stuck on it. If it weren't for that blue sticker, he wouldn't have recognized it. And the guy even reveals that it was his own sister who gave that sticker to Chanbi, and she starts wondering if they were that close in the past. But without questioning much, she just says she understands. Right after, she starts thinking that maybe they really were great friends and even gets a little shy and suggests doing something else to repay him. Don't get the wrong idea, guys. She just wanted to hang out with him as friends, and even asked if they used to go out a lot. And he said yes, a bit nervous. He even asks if she doesn't remember the times they went out, and she says no. And he realizes he's talking nonsense since she had lost her memory. Well, Kang, since I don't remember us hanging out together, we could start bumping into each other more often from now on. What do you think? Hearing those words, our hero's cheeks turn redder than a tomato, and the ice cream even starts melting in his hands. And that way he had agreed to start going out with her more often. The scene changes to someone watching Chanbi's stories on their phone. It was our hero who couldn't stop watching the girl's stories, and when he realized that it was already 7 o'clock, his little sister was there to wake him up and she walks in quietly. However, the guy was already awake and ended up scaring her. Then he picks up his little sister and thanks her for coming to his room. Now that he was in contact with Chanbi again, he was going to school much more motivated and wasn't even arriving late, until Dong appeared in the hallway and asked Kang why he came to school so early. In his response, he said it was because he stayed up all night since he was anxious. Opening a soda can, Dong says that he couldn't sleep either because of what happened with Chanbi. He was worried if the girl was still stressed, and our hero asks if he hadn't seen her stories. At that moment, the girl appears radiant, as if nothing had happened. And Dong is surprised because he thought the girl wouldn't even come to school after what happened. The redhead appears kicking a ball and says that thanks to her friend's help, Chanbi managed to recover, but at the same time he wonders if that was the Chanbi he knew. And to everyone's surprise, the one who was there was Sang-woo himself. The guy's face was all bruised, and the redhead asks who hit him. That jerk simply looks at our hero, says nothing, and gives a little smile trying to seem friendly. The scene flashes back to the previous night when our protagonist was demanding that he delete the recordings. At that moment, the guy called our hero and apologized for taking advantage of him. From now on, he would stay in his own corner and only wanted to receive some news about Chanbi. It didn't have to be anything major. He just wanted Kang to come to him and tell him if the girl was okay. He still liked her but would do everything not to get close. Of course, Kang didn't agree with that, which is why he was making that friendly face to show that he was sorry. Sometime later, our dear beauty was all happy because she had finished doing her exercises. She had spent the last few days training hard to make up for the last year she lost, and she was also memorizing people's names, which is why she wrote them down in a notebook. Chanbi felt bad every time she got close to someone and didn't know their name. And now that she had memorized people's names, it was one less problem for her to deal with. At that moment, she picked up her phone and saw a message from Xiong saying that she didn't have her contact lenses on when she met her on the bus and even apologized, saying she had mistaken her. See, you're in, she didn't ignore me, she just didn't recognize me. Some classmates on the lower court called them to come down quickly, and Erin said that she brought a water gun and it was fully loaded with ammo. She went to the faucet to refill her little gun, and when she got there, she asked why the boys were standing there. Then she explained that she brought a toy gun to splash water on the other girls, and from up there they realized that the girls also knew how to have fun. The redhead asked Dong who could have beaten Sang-woo because his face was bruised. Chanbi didn't know about that and asked Kang if he knew, and right after she said for no one to bring up that subject because she didn't want to hear about that guy. The redhead of course felt embarrassed and apologized, and then she splashed water on his face. That was for reminding her of that subject in front of everyone. Right after, she ended up grabbing our hero's arm and started pulling him so he would go down there to play with them. Dong didn't let it slide and threw his water bottle at them, but all the water ended up hitting the redhead. She was really beautiful, guys, and our hero couldn't take his eyes off her and even thought that he was a lucky man. When he looked down, he noticed something. She was holding his arm, and for these Koreans, that's something out of this world, guys. Go figure. They were surprised by a splash of water in the face, and who was there were Chanbi's two friends. They even asked what the two of them were doing hiding there, and the beauty shouted that they weren't doing anything. Later, our hero ended up arriving in his classroom with his clothes all wet. He noticed that someone had forgotten a water gun on his desk and kept trying to figure out who left it there. Since they were getting closer, it was the perfect chance for him to make Chanbi fall for him again, but he didn't know what he had done before that made her like him. It would be much easier if he had a futuristic machine to give him the answers. But thinking about it, he hadn't even really tried, he had just been himself. And putting his clothes on the chair, he said that from now on he would act naturally. But his worry was that she might find him boring and say that she would never like him. Act naturally, man, since you did that and she liked you. Maybe keeping his feelings to himself for now wasn't a bad idea. As he left the classroom, he looked a bit thoughtful. Maybe this was the beginning of a love story, but of course saying it was much easier than doing it. As he left the room, he said he was feeling completely lost, and that's how he started to have more contact with Chanbi. However, it wasn't only good things happening since some girls thought he was taking advantage of her, but what they didn't know was that just a few weeks ago, he and Chanbi were extremely close. He would even say a bit too close. Returning to the present, he ended up running into Dong on the way, and the guy whispered Kang's name very quietly. Hey, do you have feelings for Chanbi? What? Did he just ask if I have feelings for Chanbi? Why did he suddenly ask that? Why is he asking that kind of question? Could they have found something out? Okay, Dong is my friend, so he wouldn't say that to other people. You like her, don't you, Kang? Come on, tell me. Our hero was trapped in a corner, then he started pretending, saying no. They went outside the school and tried to buy a drink from the vending machine. Dong was only asking that because lately, Kang had been spending a lot of time with Chanbi. Since his friend was a bit clueless, Kang thought he didn't come to that conclusion on his own. That other friend of Chanbi appeared there with Dong and asked if he had asked our hero that question. Dong said that he had, but Kang said that he didn't like Chanbi, but of course she didn't believe it. And our hero suspected that if his friends were suspicious, it had to be because of someone else. Since Dong had been friends with Kang for a long time, he trusted his partner completely. And that way the girls started arguing with Dong, saying that he was really clueless and that it had been obvious all along. The girl turned to our hero and asked if he really didn't like Chanbi. Sweating nervously, he said no, that he didn't like her. However, Sangwoo had told her that Kang was in love with Chanbi, and when he was about to admit that he liked her, the girl appeared and even asked what they were talking about. Wait a minute, who likes who? I heard you saying that, didn't I? Oh my god, did she hear what I was about to say? Then Chanbi's friend ended up covering it up, saying they were talking about a TV show, and the guy was freaking out, thinking that Chanbi wouldn't fall for that little lie. Now she asked what show it was that they were talking about, and at that moment they couldn't keep that lie for much longer. Kang was very clever and managed to say something random, even talking about the show they were supposedly discussing, and hoped that she would believe that lie. As we know, Chanbi was very innocent and ended up believing it, and right after that she left, leaving them all relieved. The two deep down even asked why Kang got so nervous when he was near her. It was obvious that this boy was in love with Chanbi, and all red, he ended up admitting that he liked her a lot and asked them not to tell anyone. Later they went to a park near the school. They were all sitting down to talk about it. The girl asked since when he had liked Chanbi, and he said since last year. But she wasn't surprised by that. What really bothered her was how she hadn't figured it out. However, Dong was very shocked and asked why his friend hadn't said anything to him. But it made sense since Kang couldn't take his eyes off the girl. And with Chanbi, it was the same. She was always keeping an eye on him. Poor Dong was a little jealous because his friend hadn't shared that news, and so they started arguing to find out whether our hero's feelings were obvious or not. The girl even said that Dong was dumb because he hadn't figured out his friend's feelings, but what they really wanted to know was how Sangwoo had figured it out before everyone else. Our hero then said that before Chanbi lost her memory, he was very close to her, and since Sangwoo was in love with the girl, he ended up finding out. His friend then asked if he planned to tell the girl, but if he didn't want to, he promised to keep it a secret. And while they were talking about it, Yurin showed up and heard everything and asked if what they were talking about was Kang's feelings for Chanbi. That's exactly it, said that other girl, and all excited she said she hadn't expected such epic news, but at the same time she was shocked because it would be very hard for her to keep it a secret. Then she ran toward Kang asking if every time he got embarrassed it was because he was in love, and even said it must be really hard for him to keep all that love hidden. The boy was a little intimidated by that girl since she didn't seem like someone who could keep a secret. And then she said that Chanbi was way out of his league. Thinking about it, it was true, since he was nothing but a nerd while she was one of the most popular girls in school. Now, the only one who didn't know about it was the redhead, and Dong said that they needed to keep it secret because the redhead was very gossipy. Poor our hero ended up being exposed, guys, and now everyone already knew. Later he went back to the classroom, and as always, he couldn't take his eyes off the girl. To win Chanbi's heart, he would need to have a little more courage. With that, he got up and went to her, asking if the girl would like to study with him. However, she was asleep, guys, and even had her earphones on. He figured she was tired since she had studied a lot that week and even thought it had been a long time since he had seen her sleeping at school. At that moment he froze, staring at her, until someone called his name. It was Yurin, and she encouraged our hero to take another step and even asked if he wanted her to wake Chanbi up. Since Kang was a reserved guy, he didn't like that kind of thing, people meddling in his life, and even asked if she thought he needed help while he said no. Those people meddling in his life were a nightmare because they could make things worse instead of helping. A few days had passed and our hero was feeling a little unwell. A strong dizziness hit his head, and while he was sweating cold, someone asked if he was feeling okay. It was Chanbi by his side, and she asked if maybe he was sleepy. If he was tired, he should take a nap. And the guy said that he didn't need to because he could stay there studying a little longer. Putting his hand on his head, he apologized and said that he was very sleepy because he had stayed up all night watching games. Unexpectedly, he collapsed onto his desk. The girl kept staring at him attentively, and honestly I don't know what she was thinking, but she stayed there mesmerized by him, and it seemed like little by little she was developing feelings for Kang. At that moment Yurin appeared, calling her to go to the vending machine, but she couldn't go because she was busy studying. She kept pressing the lead of her mechanical pencil and meanwhile looked at our hero. The poor guy was there, passed out, so tired that he had fainted, and after putting the pencil in her mouth she said that she had never seen him sleep like that. She even wondered what kind of sport he liked, whether it was baseball, soccer, or basketball. And she even giggled, guys, and after he started drooling and snoring she laughed, saying he was really cute. Later our protagonist went to a convenience store. The type of food he always picked was out of stock, and the clerk even said that this product would be discontinued because it sold very little. Later he got home and started reading his manga, and after finishing that chapter he saw an announcement saying that the series would be discontinued. The guy was already really upset. And finally when he entered his mobile game they said the server would be shut down due to lack of players. It seemed like everything he liked was going down the drain. But on the other hand, he was getting along extremely well with Chanbi. He could even give up all his hobbies just to be with her. Meanwhile the girl was watching some music videos on her phone and then showed him, saying that the actress was very beautiful but had been out of the spotlight for a while. And turning to the boy she asked if he also liked that kind of music, if he thought those K-pop idols were pretty. Chanbi was asking what kind of woman he liked, and Yurin kept saying he liked tall women with fair skin and long dark hair. He knew she was throwing that hint at Chanbi. Then he grabbed his notebook and threw it in her face. Yurin kept making those kinds of jokes implying he liked Chanbi, but luckily the girl was too slow to notice those hints. At the back of the classroom she kept making gestures telling him to confess his love, and he just hoped no one was watching those funny scenes. Luckily Chanbi was distracted with those music videos, and turning to the girl he tried to hide it by saying something random. Then she saw a movie ad and asked her friend if she would also like to go watch it at the theater. However, Yurin already had a lot of math homework to do over the weekend, so she asked our hero if he would like to watch the movie with her, and the boy was already there choosing the seats on the ticket, and before he could answer she ended up inviting him to go with her. Yurin said they would enjoy the movie a lot and that she wouldn't be able to go. All of this was to help the guy go along with her. Wait, is Yurin helping me go out with Chanbi? The girl even got a little worried, thinking our hero wouldn't want to go with her, and kept saying it would be really bad to go to the movies alone. That was the perfect opportunity, and he even smiled and said that he was already planning to watch that movie, asking if he could go with her. The girl even laughed, holding her friend's arms, and started shaking her, saying it would be a great opportunity for her to go with someone. Then Chanbi ended up agreeing, and with a smile on her lips she said it would be amazing. The guy felt shy about going alone and went to call the redhead, but he couldn't go. How come you can't? You don't do anything on the weekend, man. But he said he couldn't because he was going out with his family. Later he found out that Yurin was also going to that meeting, so it wouldn't be a date anymore. It was already hard enough to deal with Chanbi alone, and now he'd have to deal with Yurin too. Of course with Yurin it was for a different reason, right? Obviously the redhead was playing a new game and even told our hero to download it on his phone since the games Kang used to play had been discontinued, and laughing he said that game was really fun. However, Kang wasn't in the mood for that. He was only thinking about the date that had been ruined since Yurin was joining them. Hey Kang, aren't you listening to what I'm saying? Man, you need to relax. You've been really stressed these last few days. At that moment other boys showed up and asked if Kang had already installed that new game. The redhead said he had already started playing and showed his phone, and they even commented that this game forces people to spend money. At that moment the redhead got a call on his phone and said he'd be back soon, then left humming happily. The boys then asked if by any chance Kang knew why Sangun had disappeared from school. They even commented that they thought he had been dating Chanbi and that they probably broke up, which is why he was missing classes. And they even said they wouldn't want to date a girl who had lost her memories. They kept making some stupid comments and our hero ended up standing up. At that moment Dong appeared and the boy asked why he was holding a cone. Ah, right. Do you want to go watch a movie with me tomorrow? Dong said that Yurin had already invited him too, and that's why the guy got all happy, thinking his friend would accept. However, he said he had more important things to do. The next day, our hero was watching a tutorial on how to comb his hair. Today was the day he would go out with Chanbi, but his hairstyle turned out a little weird, he kept saying. And to make things worse, he would have to wash his hair again since he had used too much gel. It was already 1:40 in the afternoon and he needed to meet them at the cinema at 3 o'clock. But to his surprise, Chanbi ended up calling him. Wait, why is she calling me at this hour? Hello? Hello? He took a deep breath. On the other end of the line, Chanbi asked if by any chance he had already left the house. He said no, and the girl asked if they could go to the cinema together. She also said there was a bus stop in front of the school that went straight to the cinema, and when he agreed, she said she was already heading there. But you're already going? It's still 1:06. She then said they should meet at that bus stop at 2 in the afternoon since it was halfway between their houses. Next he grabbed his cap and ran out, all anxious. At 1:15 she said she was already at the bus stop and the guy got there running, saying he didn't want to make her wait. It seemed like the girl wanted something special with him, and we could see she looked all cute, wearing sporty clothes, since our hero liked sports. When he saw the girl, his cheeks turned red and he said she looked really beautiful. However, she was accompanied by a guy, and our hero asked what the hell she was doing with another man. And that's how we end the first part of this story. Guys, I'll only bring part 2 if you reach the goal. So if you hit the goal today, I'll show up here to record the continuation. This story has already been completed, so I can bring it to you in full. So leave a comment to help YouTube recommend this video to more people. That way we'll reach the goal faster. I'll leave 2 videos here that I'm sure you'll like. So I'll see you there. That's it for now. Thanks and see you later everyone.